Us, welcome back again. We've been having a lot of question and answer sessions lately, and they seem to be going quite well. So we're going to continue that today. Mitch was just saying, got asked something at training at lunchtime. We just got back from training too, so that's why we're a little rushed and we're still sipping a drink.
Rehydrating, Sean. Rehydrating.
Rehydrating. It's nothing alcoholic, in case you're wondering.
Yeah.
There's nothing alcohol. It's all right. No, it's true. No, it's yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, I got asked a question about karate and the different styles in karate, because there's, Shotokan and Goju and Kyokushin and all these different styles in karate, not to mention other martial arts systems. So what would you say fundamentally is either the similarity or the differences between different karate styles to start with?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you look at wrestling and it's just freestyle wrestling, or it's Greco-Roman wrestling, and all the different, there's generally just one style of freestyle wrestling. There's lots of variations of wrestling, though. There's catch wrestling, catches, and there's freestyle and
folk style,
all this sort of thing. But essentially, they're more similar than different. Same with karate. I mean, essentially, if you look at karate, it all started with Nahate, Shurite, and all this sort of thing. And I haven't spent a lot of time looking at the history of it. But if you think that at the end of the day, most of the styles came from just a handful of instructors, well, then clearly there's more similarities and differences. Where it changes is the philosophy of the style's founder, who wanted to focus on different areas. Sosai Masayama was very interesting when he was telling me one day he was looking at the different styles that had come out of Kyokushin, and he was pointing out, on one hand, they're kind of nothing new. On the other hand, it was kind of interesting and innovative. For example, Shidokan came out of Kyokushin, who's basically Kyokushin plus kickboxing. Daido Juku is Kyokushin plus judo. Ashihara is Kyokushin plus Aikido. Things like that. But it's an interesting innovation, and it kind of tells you how all the different styles of karate began, because people just essentially had a different philosophy on training. That doesn't take into account personality differences. I mean, you look at the difference. There's so many karate guys have so much trouble with personalities. They just, if they don't like training with someone, it's very, very strange. Essentially you had a handful of styles: Wado-ryu, Shito-ryu, Goju-ryu, Shotokan. They're the main four. And then Kyokushin came along and got arguably bigger than all of them. Especially whilst Masayama's alive. Now you've got all these different Kyokushin groups, but they all still represent Masayama. The main difference, I guess, is just movement philosophy. You have hard style karate, is soft style karate. Hard style karate is arguably the way they tell the difference between a hard style and a soft style is linear versus circular. So that was the main difference between Shotokan, for example, and Goju. Shotokan essentially was very explosive in a straight line. There's no one in karate can bridge the gap with a oiski or kizami like a Shotokan guy can. But Goju is more circular, worked on the circular style. It was much closer to its origins of Chinese Kung Fu. Kyokushin is often regarded as a hard style, but it's not a hard style. It's a hard training style, but it's actually a soft style because of Sosai's emphasis on circle and point. It's very much circular in that respect. So I think it was very interesting. No style has everything, because every style, and not just karate, but every martial art, they train to a different rule set. It's that simple, So if, like Gene LaBelle once said to me, how would you beat Mike Tyson? And I'm thinking, good question. I'm not sure how. He said, tennis or badminton, you can beat him at anything you want, just don't try and beat him at boxing. And that's, if you want to beat a wrestler, don't try and out-wrestle him. If you want to beat a boxer, it's like when Randy Couture did fight James Toney, one of the great knockout boxers of history, He wasn't even, James Toney was saying, well, we're going to show this princess what it's like to fight someone who can really punch. And I was at the gym before the fight, and Randy was literally saying, there's zero chance that we're going to try and out-punch a puncher. So his training philosophy was shoot in, low single, mount, finish. But as it was, he shot in, low single, took him down, got the back instead. So movement and training philosophy is what determines the difference. The rule sets you train under is what determines the difference. The only difference between Muay Thai and Kyokushin is the rule set, really.
Yeah.
You'll find a fighter in Muay Thai is going to be looking for the optimal way to kick hard, and so is a Kyokushin fighter, but they do it within the rule set that they're framing it on. So I think that's very important, too. The other thing too is some martial arts, I think, are really cultish. I mean, I can think of a couple of martial arts off the top of my head. It's genuinely cultish. These people genuinely believe that they do have all the answers. It's just not true. And generally, whenever you have those styles that say that there are no peers, that they have no challenges, you never see them in things like UFC.
No,
so
yeah.
There's zero chance of them appearing in UFC.
Well, they don't want to hurt too many people.
Well, that's right. They don't want to kill them with the death touch. We've been cynical, but at the same time, there's people out there who really do. They are very cultish. You just got to go with the flow. Remember, there's only one thing that matters, and that's pressure testing your techniques against someone who's really out to get you.
Of course.
And as we say, does it work against a non-compliant opponent whose objective is to hurt you? And the other thing too is toughness. I can remember I used to work doors many years ago. A couple of the guys I worked with were Australian Wallabies.
Big rugby players.
And hard rugby players. And I remember one night, one of the guys got king hit by someone. And this guy wound him up, punched him, probably just saw it at the end, and just as he rolled away with it, and he literally just looked at the guy and said, "Move away from the door, please." And this guy had hit him with the hardest shot. Football players, rugby league players, rugby union players, they line up for a car wreck every weekend. They play week after week after week, sometimes 3 times in 2 weeks almost.
Yeah.
And it's literally a car crash, a head-on car collision every 5 minutes.
And it's not just 1-on-1, it's 2-on-1, 3-on-1. So they're used to that, which is very different. I agree. I think a lot of people talk about mixed martial arts and the best base for it is wrestling. But I also think a lot of the Aussies are doing well because of their base of rugby and rugby league. I think that has a huge bearing on their toughness and the physicality that they're used to.
So we talk about the 4 main somatics a lot: speed, strength, cardiovascular endurance, and flexibility. But there's also a 5th one, which I think is important, and that is what I call sturdiness, which is the body's ability to take punishment. You're never going to be able to handle any sort of really full contact fighting unless you have a degree of sturdiness and the ability to take a good shot. So anyway, welcome everyone. Us, Rochelle, Senpai Al, Mike Clark, Sensei, Us, good to see you. Craig Perry, good to see you. Marco, welcome back. Mac, Us from Germany, beautiful. Peter, Bo, Marco, Nahate, Shudite. Yep, the 2 main streams. Mark Sang, good to see Mark Sang right there. I'm catching up with Mark this weekend.
Cool.
Mark's son's fighting on the fight night at Southport Sharks.
Yeah, right.
Mark was my first black belt, everyone. So you see Mark Sang there. Good to see you, Marky. Gaza, good to see you, Gaza. And never forget Count Dante. That's very important. There is no one in the world who can beat Count Dante. Do you know Count Dante?
No,
he was just this guy who was going around telling him that he was untouchable.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just, it comes down to rule sets. If you got any questions about that, by all means, jump in and hit us with a comment.
When it comes to the sturdiness, Shian, what are some simple, effective ways that you've learned or developed over time to develop sturdiness in students?
Well, I think you got to look at the main target areas. You got to make the body strong and make the legs strong. And a lot of that not only is about being able to take a shot. It's one thing to take a shot. You could inject someone with painkiller and they can take a shot, but their leg will get broken because the angle's wrong and the shape of it's wrong. So I think, first of all, you've got to condition your shins and your thighs and legs. And you do that through specific drills, kick drills. You can kick sandbags as well. You harden your shins however you want. But we used to use Hessian bags full of sand to harden your shins. Not just your shins, but all around your shins too. It's one thing to harden the shins where you're deliberately kicking with, but every now and then you're off center a little bit and your leg gets deflected and you might hit a part which is just to the side of your shin. And if it's not conditioned, you're going to go down very quickly. So you've got to condition your legs. Also, you need to condition your thighs to take a kick. And it's not just about numbing the nerve pain. It's about getting the angle right and the body weight right. We've been through drills. We'll go through drills again sometime, I guess. And then you've got to harden your body. Make sure you have the ability to take a heavy punch all through your body. You look at there's old videos, beautiful videos of Muhammad Ali conditioning his body, where he had people throwing really heavy medicine balls into his body, and you'd catch it. We used to do that too. Remember, you'd lie down and we'd throw the medicine ball down, and you'd have to throw it medicine ball, and you'd catch it on your tummy. Plus the body conditioning with the punches, simultaneous or in turn as well,
and walking over the stomach. I remember doing that as well.
That's right. Just kneading the stomach so that you can learn to tense the stomach in a relaxed way. It's really weird, but remember we used to stand on the stomach for a minute or 2 minutes at a time. So you learn how to you don't want to just walk around with your stomach hard all the time because you're going to burn up energy, but you learn how to just get the stomach hard in the right place at the right time. It takes a bit of training. Of course, a bit of heart also on top of the conditioning goes a long way. Seen a lot of super strong people just fall mentally. Well, that's the spirit of us. That's very true. And interestingly, I think that heart manifests not just in martial arts, but in a lot of other things too. You look at there's some pretty amazing demonstrations of courage and everything like that. But yes, Gaza, you're 100% right. Very strong people. I see it in grappling all the time. If I can see someone who's very, very physically strong, and in my case 10, 20, 30, 40 years younger. But if you can position yourself in such a way so that you're putting diaphragmatic pressure on and they're having trouble breathing and they find it very claustrophobic, well, very, very strong people can very quickly go down. And it's the same when you're sparring and doing kumite, in that really strong, hard guys, if they're not used to a leg kick, a good, heavy thumping leg kick, a couple of times, 3 or 4, and all of a sudden the color drains out. So you're 100% right that sometimes you don't have the same level of conditioning, but if mentally you're very strong, you'll go well. On the flip side is, as you say, it's you can have a very strong body, but if the mind goes, well, it's all over. The mind wields muscles, as they say. What age do you suggest that starts? Well, I tend to believe that up until about 12 or 13, kids' bones and everything is still developing. So you have to be a little careful. Makiwara training, I would leave until a little later, maybe. I'm loath to say anything below about 20.
Yeah, I was going to, late teens, early
18,
20s.
yeah,
and it
something
depends
like that.
also, people develop physically at different levels. I went to a school, sports excellence school, and the gene pool was young guys that were extremely developed at a young age. That was just a genetic pool because rugby league was the dominant sport there. So it depends also on that. But generally, if you're unsure, I always think later the better.
Yeah, but as far as punching conditioning goes, well, a lot of that's mental as well. So that doesn't hurt to start. If they have a demonstrated interest in fighting tournaments and everything, well, then I think you can start a little earlier. But definitely there's no prescription when they turn 12, do this. It doesn't work like that, because there are 14-year-old kids who are still very immature, and there are 14-year-old kids who are out there sparring with adults. So it depends on their genetic situation as well. I think I knew people who rolled old school glass Coke bottles up and down their shins. Yeah, that as well. I tend to think it's very time consuming. I think you're much better off getting out there and getting on the sandbag and focusing on what you're doing. It's more specific because you're using the kick movement as well, that sort of thing. Yeah, rolling Coke bottles and rolling sticks, that sort of thing. It might have a time and place for it, that's for sure.
I think it's one of those two things as well, Xian, where you want your training to be incredibly efficient. And by doing the technique, the kicking technique, you're developing the conditioning, the muscle contraction, the mitochondrial density, blah, 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 nerve function, but you're also getting the conditioning because of what you're hitting. And that's
Exactly.
two birds, one stone.
Yeah, and we talked about the specificity of so much. When you're talking about any type of conditioning, there's very specific styles of conditioning, and that's why Mitch mentioned last week talking about, Lance Armstrong, who won Tour de France, didn't win the marathon he ran, didn't even come close to winning the marathon. So that's just an example of cardiovascular specificity. Well, it's the same with anything you do in the martial arts. Martial arts is very specific like that as well. And if you can work your technique as you're working your conditioning, well, then that's even better. And I know, I'm thinking back on the days when I was kicking the sandbag. Literally, you're actually kicking the sandbag as though you're kicking properly. And I think that really is a very important thing, because you discover weaknesses in your technique as well. When you're hitting the makiwara, for example, if you're hitting the makiwara, say shito techniques or uraken, and particularly haito, if your elbow and shoulder position are wrong, you'll really do yourself an injury. So that's why you start off slow, and you're only as strong as the weakest link in the movement, and that's you uncover where your weakest link is and go from there. But you're not going to get that rolling Coke bottles down the shin.
Yeah.
Just
and for the one or two people that haven't seen Xian's Makiwara video on this YouTube channel, check it out, because I think it's a fantastic video that you've done on the Makiwara and how to hit it and how to balance the conditioning of the fist.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I think the age limitation is very important, Rochelle. I agree. It needs to be individualized. Blanket age isn't. No, it's not going to work. I tapped to pressure many times when I first started BJJ. That's a good point. I think we all did. And I know my coach would he would test people's mental resilience by putting them in very, very claustrophobic, high pressure positions. We've all tapped to that. That's true, Craig. In fact, it's really interesting that, you say you tapped to pressure many times when you first started, but I find even now when I'm rolling with someone who is much, much better, and they have the ability to shut down your movement to the point where you can't even breathe, then it doesn't matter. You may as well be a beginner again. I think if you can rob someone's ability to breathe, it doesn't matter what rank they are.
We were doing that today.
Yes.
And drilling after training, like in training, you were doing a certain position and it was diaphragmatic pressure and it was very intense. And then in drilling after, I was drilling with some training partners, exactly that, and getting taps and being tapped through pressure. So I completely agree, Craig.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
No.
Yeah, there you go. I think the question about different karate styles is valuable, but I also think I love BJJ, as you know. I think it's a fantastic connection to Kyokushin. Kyokushin has proven itself over and over and over, but it also has its weaknesses. And like Sosai points out, if a Kyokushin fighter gets taken to the ground by a wrestler or a judo guy, and he doesn't know what to do, well, he's big trouble. So again, it always comes back to the rule set and the experience of testing your skills under pressure. Being able to maintain composure under pressure when you're rolling is very much an experience and skill thing. It can be as simple as a slight shoulder movement. You can be like rolling with someone, and at this position, you're so under pressure and claustrophobic, and it's very, very mind stressing. You move your shoulder 1 inch, and it's a completely different world.
It's like that saying that
1 foot in front of the blade, you're in hell. 2 foot forward, you're in heaven again. It's a little bit like that. That's a pressure thing, and the reason more experienced guys experience that less and less is because they just know how to shape themselves so well. But you even see Gordon Ryan when he's tapped out some of the greatest world champions ever, and literally it's claustrophobia under.
I can't imagine.
Those smother pressure holds on. When he gets them in the mountain, they can't breathe. They tap.
We were doing that this morning at training too. This is the other thing with what you're saying there. You say it and it's so simple, just move this way, move that way. But the training time and mat time to develop that feel is decades, really. And today at training, you were doing exactly that. We spent the first part of the session, remember,
in the early morning
session, the gi doing
just micro adjustments. You shape yourself in a certain way, and it can be the same when you're doing stand-up fighting. Someone can move slightly, and if you don't micro adjust, they completely have you offline, and it's impossible to react quickly. On the other hand, if you can adjust, get your distance right, even just a micro adjustment can be enough to neutralize their attack. And this is why when you look at you hear stories or look at movies where they have samurai sword scenes, which you have two guys will face each other, and then one will just go, mighty master. He'll bow his head and go, I completely lose, because they can tell that there is absolutely no opening or opportunity in the opponent.
Yeah, right.
And this happens too in stand-up fighting, is that you shape up to certain guys, and you just know that there is no opening to it. And in BJJ, it's more tactile. So a similar sort of thing can be that you do what you always do in that circumstance, and the outcome is very different.
Yeah,
that's very true. But anyway, we just wanted to bring that up about the different styles. If you got any comments, please leave it there. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I heard there's still a couple of people out there haven't subscribed.
I think they're the same two that haven't seen the Makiwara video.
Yeah. It's good to see Marky Sang here. It's a bit of a quiet one today, but very nice to see Mark's name pop up, and Gaza McCausland. Good on you. We've got our Seoul Kyokushin National Training Camp coming up on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of October. Looking forward to that. Some pretty important, valuable, special guests coming along.
Cool.
It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you're on the Gold Coast on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of October, by all means, come and join us. Good on you, Marky. Nice to see you. And I'm looking forward to catching up with Mark. He's going to be sitting right here where Mitch is on Saturday. We're going to catch up. So that's great.
And Mark's sons are beasts.
Yeah,
they're so good.
Both his sons now are fighting MMA, and they're at a good gym with good coaches. So they're doing extremely well. And it's funny, hey, Mark, there used to be a time where we were fighting in tournaments and things, but then you watch your own sons and you think, man, this is just like another level. But Mark's training again too. Mark's doing very well. So that's really exciting. Yeah, you'll have to come to our camp 1 year, Rochelle. I think we'll hold a longer one soon. Right now it's just Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but I think we'll be holding a week-long camp before long too. We do a training camp every year. Yeah, and of course anyone's welcome to come along. It's very Kyokushin oriented, but of course we have sessions. Last year Mitch did a really good session on training.
Yeah. Joint health.
Yeah, it was joint health.
But it was on physical training.
Yeah, that particular session was on joint health, but training sessions, we have special guests come along who I won't say their name, but I guarantee you know who they are, amongst the greatest Kyokushin fighters ever.
And you do a bunch of fantastic sessions, Shion, breaking down Kihon, Eido Kihon, and multiple applications for it as well. Kata sessions.
Yeah.
And all the ranges Shion goes through. It's fantastic.
Yeah. So I think, what we want to do is provide as much knowledge as possible, particularly for instructors. So that's what makes the camp so interesting is you have high-level instructors coming along with good questions, and we get to the bottom of the questions through physical training. The evolutionary process of training is fantastic to see. Toby has a real science to it. Yeah, indeed. And Toby has a real science to it too, but I got to tell you, Toby is as close to the Adonis as you could possibly
He's
get.
like the top of the genetic heap.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's for sure. We should put a photo of Toby up someday. I think in the early days, his opponents would turn up at the weigh-in and they go, there's no way I'm getting to the ring with that guy.
That's when someone like micro adjustments, Toby just rocks up and just takes his shirt and people are like, nah.
Yeah, that's enough. Yeah. John Danaher. No, look, if John Danaher would come to a training camp and spend a day, that'd be great, but it'd probably cost me $25,000 just to have him. But we usually stick to Kyokushin. Guys, it is true in the past we've had Savat guys and
you had a Sambo guy,
Sambo,
I remember we did one.
So we do invite other people from time to time. But anyway, we do have Gary O'Neill coming along. He's the main one who's doing a session for us. Gary O'Neill is going to come along and do a very special session at the camp.
Which he did last year, which was fantastic. He did a footwork session that was,
timeless.
Jaw-droppingly good.
Yeah, timeless. But anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming along. If you got any further questions, please put them in the comments and we'll get back to them when we can. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Awesome.
Mitch,
thank you,
good
Shaun.
training today.
Appreciate
we had
it.
2 good sessions today. And now we're going to relax and go for a swim and a sauna and try and get our energy back. And Mark, when you come Saturday, if you want, bring your togs. We'll go for a swim. Us. Good to see you guys. Thank you very much. Us.